Carbs, 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 right? You need carbs to get big. It's all about the carbs. Gotta eat red meat if you want to get huge. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to AMA, Ask Me Anything. I'm Centopani, and today I would like to talk about 5 bodybuilding nutrition rules. I mean, personally, I consider them myths, but let's just call them rules that I would like to see die. Die and be gone forever. They irritate me. I think they're baseless. I think they're stupid. Based on my experience, they're just plain untrue. I've got them written down right here. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Rule number 1, so dumb, no carbs after 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever point in the day it is, right? Because if you eat carbs too late in the day, you're gonna get fat. That's just the way it is, dude. It doesn't matter how many carbs you've eaten in the 24-hour span, doesn't matter how active you're gonna be, right? Maybe between the hours of 4, 5, 6, right? If you train hard as hell at 6 p.m., nope, doesn't matter, can't have carbs. So stupid. That's just completely moronic. There's research that shows that carbohydrate uptake is greatest kind of around training. So for that reason, I think if you're gonna have carbs at any point in the day, it makes the most sense to kind of center them around your training. So if you're training at 8 o'clock at night and you finish your workout at 9, should you not have carbs then? I would. Maybe I wouldn't be having them at 9 a.m., but you could be damn sure I'm having them before and after my workout. Rule number 2, white carbs are bad for you, right? White potatoes are bad for you. White rice is bad for you. White bread is bad for you. Honestly, whether we're talking white rice or brown rice or white potato or a sweet potato, I mean, if we look at rice, personally, rice is not the greatest source of nutrition anyways. What are you really gonna get from rice? Most carbs in general are not the greatest source of micronutrients. Although potatoes, being technically a root vegetable, I think we could make probably a good argument for the vitamins and minerals they contain, but that's whether it's a white potato or a sweet potato, okay? Doesn't matter. Both very high in potassium and other minerals. There's nothing more intrinsically more nourishing about a sweet potato compared to a white potato. I would tell the person consuming, really opt for the one that digests better for you. A lot of people, when it comes to sweet potato, they get gassy. A lot of people even get reflux or indigestion. But if I'm going for really what allows me to feel my best, white potato. And you know, I'd be eating white potatoes right up to contest day, day of the show. In all the preps I did, you know, whether it was for the Arnold Classic, whether it was for the Mr. Olympia, I did better on white potato than I did sweet potato. When it comes to rice, same thing. I always did better on white rice than brown rice. White bread versus whole grain bread? I don't know, man. Both of it's bread. Both are pretty heavily processed. Neither of them are probably the best source of nutrients. Kind of seems like carb sources containing gluten. For a lot of people, not everybody, but for a lot of people, they just, if you're consuming large quantities of them, just kind of don't really digest as well. That's just how I feel about it, right? That's not a rule, right? I'm not gonna sit there and say, you can't eat gluten, right? In order for, you know, to be at your absolute best, no gluten. I wouldn't say that because a lot of these rules are stupid. When it comes to nutrition, a lot of things are highly individual. Which brings me to my next point about fiber, right? A lot of times people will argue, this is kind of a piggyback off the second rule, well, sweet potato has more fiber. Brown rice has more fiber compared to a white potato or white rice. And fiber is just so important. Honestly, I don't even think fiber is that important. There's some people out there who'll go so far as to say fiber is technically an anti-nutrient, right? It's bad for you. It inhibits your absorption of nutrients. I don't know if I necessarily feel that way. I think that with a lot of things, when it comes to nutrition, I'm kind of middle of the road, right? If there's people over here eating a carnivore diet and there's people over here shouting for veganism, I kind of feel like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna eat meat and I'm gonna eat vegetables too. When it comes to fiber, I don't go out of my way to consume massive quantities of it because I think it's, you know, is so vital, but I also won't make it a point to totally avoid it. Once you start consuming massive quantities of fiber, could fuck with your digestion a bit. And because fiber does slow down digestion, maybe if you're dieting and you're really, really hungry, and you're trying to make your meals last longer, an increase in fiber is helpful because it'll make you feel full and satiated longer. But if you're someone who's trying to put on as much size as possible, you have a hard time eating the volume of food necessary, I can tell you right now, eating a lot of high fiber foods, probably not your best bet. You want foods that are gonna digest really efficiently, which brings me to my next point. This rule, gotta eat red meat if you wanna get huge. Look, I like steak, red meat's good. I don't think it's magic. Some people tend to do really, really well when they eat a considerable amount of red meat. Most people, myself included, eating red meat on a daily basis, especially for more than one meal, kind of bogs down your digestive system. I don't feel that it's the greatest food when it comes to putting on as much size as possible because it's harder for the body to digest, and it can sometimes limit your ability to consume the volume of food you need to consume to get as big as you can. I like red meat, maybe a few times a week I'll have it. I don't have it on a daily basis, and I certainly don't have it more than once a day. Do I think you need it to get huge? Absolutely not. I've had plenty of off seasons where I was really, really big, wasn't eating red meat. I think if you like red meat, you do well with it, great. There's nothing magical about it. And for a lot of people, if it's going to inhibit consumption of maximum volume of food to put on the size you need to put on, you should probably kick it to the curb. And the last one, carbs, 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 right? You need carbs to get big. It's all about the carbs. Almost as if to say, when it comes to energy, you need a lot of carbs. I don't feel that way. If we're being technical, right, if you look at macronutrients in terms of what's most vital for growth, even health, I would tell people to consider a chicken egg. Right? A chicken egg is technically an embryo for a developing chick. Plenty of protein in there, there's plenty of fats in there, or no carbohydrates. So that should kind of give you some clue as to the importance of carbohydrates for growth. That said, okay, carbohydrates are a calorie source. So when you're putting together a diet, I think all three are important. Proteins, fats, carbs. But if I had to kick one to the curb, carbs would actually be the first to go. I've dieted months and months on very, very little carbohydrates, almost none. So little that I was in ketosis. I felt great. Now granted, I'm not out there running marathons. If you're someone out there doing long distance running and heavy work, you probably need a lot of calories, and there's only so much protein and fat you're gonna consume. So carbohydrates, sure, especially when you're trying to put on size, right? Consuming carbohydrates could be sparing to protein, right? But this idea that carbohydrates are the holy grail of growth, it's just stupid, and it's not true. Proteins and fats will always be the most important. There's essential amino acids, right? And there's essential fatty acids. There are no essential sugars, right? Or carbs. Those are my 5, right? When it comes to carbohydrates, the time of day, no, it doesn't matter. It should be focused around your training. In terms of white carbs being bad for you, that's just stupid. Carbs in general are just not really the greatest source of nutrition, but they're a valuable carbohydrate source. When it comes down to deciding which ones to consume, I would tell you to just consume the ones that digest well for you. Fiber, I don't know. I think it's good to have some in your diet. I don't think you need to be out there consuming copious quantities of it, and it's gonna murder your appetite. I guess if you're in a prep and you're trying to dull your appetite, some extra fiber could help you to feel satiated. In terms of carbohydrates being important for growth, I'm gonna say that proteins and fats are much, much more essential. But carbohydrates are important because they can be protein sparing and they are a calorie source. And the last one, that you gotta eat beef to get big, it's definitely not true. I've had plenty of off seasons where I got really, really big and I wasn't eating any beef. There's nothing magical about it. It's just a protein source. Sure, of all the protein sources, it is rich in a lot of vitamins and minerals. It's very nutritious. If it starts to bog down your digestive system because it is a slower digesting protein, I would tell you to opt for more faster, efficient digesting protein sources. So those are the 5 rules, okay, when it comes to nutrition that I would like to see die. Hope you guys have found this at least a little bit informative. If not, hopefully at least a little bit entertaining. And until next time, I'm Centopani for IFBB AMA. See you soon.